Nice one, Tim. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure, mate.
So, how long have you been coaching? What's the story behind it?
So I got into coaching now, probably about 7 years now. I've coached for. I finished boxing when I was 39. But prior to the last fight I had, I still did a little bit of coaching before that. And a little bit of coaching I was doing it towards the end of that led me to fight again.
Yeah.
Sort of gave me the bug a little bit to have one more go. So yeah, all in all, probably about 5-6 years. As soon as I finished the last fight, I went pretty much straight into coaching then. And then yeah, just sort of 6 years, it's been a lot more intense. Probably post-COVID is a real intensity to how I've coached. Before that, it was doing a lot of coaching, but not like I am now, where it's a full-time job now.
Yeah.
Never planned to be a full-time job. The more I did it, the more I loved it, and the more it escalated, and here we are now.
Yeah. So how has your coaching style developed since you've started? What's changed?
I think, as a coach, I think you have to be influenced by people that have coached you. And I think a lot of it comes down to taking snippets of how other people have coached you, not using that as the basis for exactly how you coach, because every individual is different. But still using that to assist you in forming your style. For me, I think I was always around people that were, everything was about fundamentals, good fundamentals. You've got good fundamentals in boxing, you can develop your own style, you can progress quicker. But just having the confidence to stick with that and not get rushed into trying to get people moving too quickly to try and keep them engaged. Sticking to that sort of ethos and metric of right, I want you to do the basics and doing well.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to have you here doing, loads of crazy bag work, getting you on an assault fight, screaming at you. I'm going to have you go and do the fundamentals. We're trying to stick to, telling someone to rotate the jab for 30 minutes, they do it correctly, sometimes can be challenging because you've got to keep people engaged. So I guess for me, it's all about an old style of coaching, fundamentals, do the basics really well. After that, whether people progress with me, they can. If they want to go off and develop their own style, they've got the fundamentals. So for me, if do the basics and do them well, I think my job is to give people the basics, give them the fundamentals. After that, whatever style they adopt, that's down to them.
So we do the one-to-ones together. And I remember when we first started, it was just like, the best thing about them is just you've got to start from zero again, really. It's like you can think, especially if you just do classes and then sparring, you get so many bad habits that are just like, I don't know, even you think you're doing well and you don't know until someone's like, yeah, that's shit. And it's like, you kind of just got to accept it because you're not going to improve otherwise.
It's one of those things with boxing is that, because essentially it's an ego-driven sport. No matter what anyone says, and once you get into the sport, once you really get to learn about the sport and you spend time with a coach, you actually realise that essentially the technicalities involved in the sport are what make you a good fighter.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone needs to know how to fight. Everyone needs an element about them where they've got to bite down on that gum shield when things get difficult. But you can eliminate and alleviate a lot of that pressure by technically being good. Well, how do you get technically good? Well, it means you do the fundamentals correctly.
Yeah.
A lot of people come into a gym and their first thought process is, well, I'm going to have a go at boxing now, or I've got to be tough. That isn't boxing. You soon get found out. Your toughness will take you so far, but you'll get to a level you won't get any further. And you see a lot of people come in gyms. I've seen it at various gyms where people have been members for 5, 6, 7 years. They've never got any better.
No.
Great analogy is golf. The amount of times you see people play golf and go, I've been playing golf for 10 years, never got any better. Well, you hold the club wrong and you stand incorrectly. So before you even start hitting the ball, your fundamentals aren't on point. So you're only never going to get, the more you do it repeating the exercise, you'll get better, but you'll only improve incrementally. Boxing is the same. If your fundamentals aren't on point, then you won't improve. So people come into a gym and think, right, I've got to be tough. That toughness will take you so far. You've got to have the fundamentals, the basics. And the more you learn the basics, the more that means you can develop your style. The more you develop your style, the more you realise actually how technical it is. So it kind of goes, you got to go backwards to go forwards. With a lot of people, that's difficult to take. Because when you say to somebody, listen, mate, with all due respect, you're tough in your game, but technically you're not very good. It doesn't get on very well with people.
No, it can hurt a bit.
That can really hit deep with people because again, you are tapping into someone's ego.
Yeah.
You sort of point out to them, look, You're tough, but you're not very good. People don't want to hear that, you know what I mean? They want to hear, listen, mate, your game is anything. When you get in there, wow, people are intimidated by you.
Yeah.
The harsh reality is, anyone of a decent level gets in with somebody and thinks, actually, I don't mind sparring you because you're a bit wild, you run at me, and I can box you easy because you're quite easy to read. They don't think like that. And, that's the thing you see with people with the sport. When you work with a coach will strip it back, and you've got to put the ego to one side, because I've had it before with lads that have come in and I've had to say to them, look, with all due respect to you, fundamentally, you're actually really bad. Doesn't always go down well with people. It's the first thing they look at you and think is, well, that's great, mate. I've just paid you for a block of 10 sessions. The first thing you've done is absolutely destroyed my ego. You know, I've actually brought them down to, like, you know, as low as you can go.
Yeah.
But then again, you do that, and all of a sudden when they start doing stuff, and they take that into sparring, and they're like, well, hang on a second, actually, I could never land that before.
Yeah.
Actually, I found that easy. Well, you know, actually, a guy they struggled against, well, I got the better of him there. Well, why is that? Because you're doing certain little things that we've tweaked with you have made a big difference.
Trying to actually see what's happening in front of you, you can only do that once you've had a little bit of coaching, because otherwise you are just thinking, I'm in a fight at the minute.
Yeah.
There's no like art to it. But whereas it's like when you know, oh, they're trying to set up that, it becomes like chess. It's like, oh, I know what you're about to try and do. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to have to do this to get you to do that. There's so much more strategy to it when you've been shown what to look for. Like, that's what we really enjoy the sparring now, where it's like, oh yeah, some of the lads you have it with, you can get caught up in it and have a little bit of a scrap, but then sometimes it's like you can see everyone's brain moving 100 miles an hour. Like, it's really good.
When people say to you, are new to sparring, so it is that fight or flight syndrome when you get in there. It's the survival instinct kicks in. I'm going to survive here. You're not going to instinctively think, I know what I'll do if I push away my jab and, you know, I hook off a little bit and I make sure that when I'm back up to the ropes I move laterally. You're not going to think that. No. You're going to think, this guy's in front of me now, I'm going to punch him more than he punches me.
Yeah.
It's a fight. It's not boxing, it's a fight. Now you've got to get accustomed to sparring. You've got to get accustomed to, you know, controlling the adrenaline, controlling your emotions. You can caveat a lot of that by, when you first get in there, knowing that if he throws a jab at me without me thinking, pure instinct means I'm going to parry that jab and move. When you've got that installed in you as a muscle memory, as a reflex, sparring's a lot easier.
Yeah.
99% of people don't get into sparring with that as their backup.
Yeah, it's always like, cause it surprises you as well, doesn't it? You're like, oh shit, I've just done something there. And you don't even realise, and you've landed that punch that you're like, I've done that a million times on the bag, but it's happened and I've not even thought about it. And that only comes with that practice, because it's never going to happen otherwise.
The analogy you always get in boxing is like, listen, you know, practice makes perfect. It doesn't make perfect. It's the biggest fallacy in probably any sport. Again, you draw comparisons with loads of different sports. The amount of times, and I see it in here, I see lads hitting bags, and I think all you're doing there is drilling the incorrect technique. You know, you haven't had the experience to be able to hit a bag. You can use a bag for conditioning, but if you condition to throw your shots correctly, a lot of people aren't. They develop the bad habits and the bad muscle memory hitting bags incorrectly. So when they spar, the hands are too low, the chin's up in the air. They're throwing shots and they've got a great work rate, but for every 2 they throw, they get hit with 3. Well, why is that happening? Well, it's because you're throwing the incorrect shots on the bag. Practice makes permanent, but if it's permanently incorrect, you have a problem.
Yeah.
And the difference between hitting bags, hitting pads, all the training you do in boxing versus sparring, it can be this much where you get in, like you said, and it's thinking, what am I going to do here? How am I going to set this up? What shot am I going to draw from them to land a counter shot? Spending 30 seconds figuring somebody out. Okay, there's a low left hand there. I know I can expose that. You know, they've got a really high guard. They're quite tall. I'm going to go at the body. All those things, when you're in there, you've got time to think when fundamentally you do everything correctly. Because you're not getting there thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here. I've got to fight. Developing the right technique, working with the coach, building, you know, those foundations. I mean, when you get in there, you can think to yourself, right, I've earned that time. That's how you earn that time, because you can stay relaxed in there. Someone rushes your bump, parry, circle off, have a little look at them. If you haven't got them good fundamentals and someone's continually hitting you the right hand over the top, you're not going to think yourself in your head, wow, what can I expose them? There you're thinking, I've been hit 3 times with the right hand, I'm not doing it again. The reason you're getting hit with the right hand is because you could spend 6 months hitting a bag with a low left hand, conditioned the wrong technique. And that's why with boxing, it's so important that you don't bypass stages. So many times with boxing, we see people go, they come along, they take part in the classes, which will help them develop. And they jump into sparring and they're like, what's going wrong? What's going wrong is your fundamentals aren't correct. Great analogy with it, learning to drive. You don't see somebody take somebody out, take someone out, you never had a situation when you learn to drive and your old man took you out in the car, took you around the car park, at the NEC, got you to change gear a few times and went, superb, so do me a favour, drop this in Scotland for me. You wouldn't be on the M6, would you? You'd be like, what? The car park was fine, they got on the M6, you'd be like, what's going on here? Driving on the M25 in a car you've never driven before, it's going to be absolute hell on earth.
Yeah.
But that's the same analogy. It's all well and good, in a controlled environment. When it gets open, boom, fear factor kicks in.
Yeah.
You've had 30 driving lessons, you pass your test, you've got an element of confidence in you that when you get in a car, I know I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If you got that before you get in sparring, it's a different scenario. And 90% of people don't have that.
No.
They go from one extreme to another and they're like, whoa, and it is like a rabbit in the headlights.
Have you got any moments in sparring when you're like, oh, they just stand out as either being like really good, really funny?
I've had some corky moments over the years. I've had a lad I've sparred alongside a lad years ago, and we were all warmed up, ready to go and sparring. And a friend of mine who was a train with years ago, very good pro boxer. At that time he was in special forces, so he was a very fit, well-conditioned guy. Been in boxing all his life, good amateur. And he spotted one of the guys we were sparring with who actually his head guard on back to front. He said he's got his head guard on back to front. He said, should I say something? I said, yeah, do it. I said, it's better coming from you, you know what I mean? The guy's pro boxer, in the special forces, very well respected. So if you go over and say it to him, he'll come across in a way where it's probably, it's less demeaning, less, he won't take offence to it so much.
Yeah.
He's always getting guided by somebody, who's experienced. So he's wandered over to the guy, politely tapped him on the shoulder, said, excuse you, mate, your head guard's on back to front. And the lads turned around and looked at him and went, nah, it's not, mate. So the lads took a step back. He's looked at me. I said, so he goes, he's told me that I'm wrong. Now his head guard is on back, which is literally, for anyone who boxes knows, that's some going. To get it on back to front is good going. And so he said, look, what should I do? I said, tell him again. So he tapped him again and gone, look, mate, I don't want to be funny like that. It's on back to front. And the guy turned around, cool as anything, and has gone, mate, I think I know what I'm doing. I'm all right. Proceeded then, my friend then walked off and was like, I can't talk to this bloke. He's going for the first round and luckily the coach that trained us at the time was a little bit more abrupt and took one look and went, what the f are you doing? Get that head guard off, it's on back to front. At which point he then did take it as, all right, yeah, it is on back to front. But it took 3 goes, 2 of which were on a pro boxer, who he still wouldn't accept was right. He's gone sparring, his first go of sparring, I know what I'm doing. Again, when the ego takes over, it don't matter who's talking to you know, right? Which is exactly that scenario.
I think a lot of people just instantly think, never having done any of it, they're just like, I'm going to be good at this. Like, it's like, look, as a good bloke, you're not going to want to think like, oh, I'd be a bitch, I don't know what I'm doing. But you are going to be realistically, if you haven't done it, it's completely fresh stuff, isn't it?
It's one thing you'll understand as a coach, it's a fate letter with boxing. Couple of things you don't do. One, on a night out, tell people you're a boxing coach, worst thing you can do. Because they'll ask you whatever part of the, if I was in Cornwall and someone said to me, what do you do, you're a boxing coach? They'll ask me if I know somebody who's a boxing coach. Like we all get together on a weekend and have some kind of Masonic lodge community. No, not everyone knows each other. And the second thing you'll do is go out wearing any kind of boxing gear. The amount of times I'll go to the pub dressed in, my boxing stuff straight from the gym and people feel the urge to tap you. Tell you about all the fights they've had. Tell you about the fights they've had outside the chippy on a Saturday night. Ask you where you train and tell you categorically they're coming down for sparring. The amount of times I've had, mate, I'll come down Tuesday, let me take your number. I'll be there Tuesday. Now to this day, not one has ever turned up. Not one has ever turned up, but they will, for 20 minutes, spit in your face and tell you about fights they've had, people they know, do you know him? And you have to listen to it, nod your head, and do the same rigmarole every time. Oh, great, mate. That's superb. I'm glad it's going well for you, mate. I'll leave you to it. But for one more thing, here's my clip of me, but okay, mate. You don't have to endure a 5-2-minute round of some absolute crank fighting on some dog-hole, backstreet show. Boxing against a bloke who looks about 4 stone overweight and about to have a cardiac arrest. All right, mate, that's what I want to do on my Friday night is watch videos of you on YouTube. And at the end of it, you're like, I'll catch you again, mate. Never to be seen again.
No.
Never to be seen again.
I think,
And also, so what they will say is, when they say to me, do you know such and such? On the odd occasion I do, and I ask them, they'll be like, never heard of them, mate. Never met him in my life, mate. Great, thanks for that, mate. You've killed me even more now. Do you know, I met a geezer in the public now who knows you. I don't know who you're talking about, mate. Great, yeah. Lesson learned, don't go to the booze away in boxing gear.
yeah, no, it's good to know,
Yeah.
just in case. So what's the most valuable bit of advice you ever received?
In regards to coaching,
Yeah, it can be just life, to be fair, or coaching.
Oh, mate, in life, two things that I'd probably revert back to. Because I think when you got lessons in life, you have to revert back to them all the time. When you get issues, you get problems, you get complications in life, you get challenges, revert back to them. Well, they always got told by someone. And you can fit it into any aspect of a life situation problem. It's control the controllables. Control what you can control.
Yeah.
You can control a situation, do everything you can to control it. Something you can't control and something happens, don't beat yourself up over it. Don't sit there for hours stewing over something you can't control. It's out of your hands. You draw that comparison with relationships, friends, business, family to an extent. Control the controllables. You can't control how other people operate. If someone operates in a certain way and causes you a problem, you can't think for them, you can't act for them. There's nothing you can do, that's them. What you can control is where you position them in your life. Control the controllables. If you pay for stuff, if you pay for your bills, you know, everything's paid off and you want to spend a bit of money on stuff, you spend it. Because you control the fact that everything's paid off. You spend a load of money and you get hit with a load of bills, that's on you. Control the controllable. Control what you control. Outside of that, don't stress about it. Don't spend your life trying to second guess other people's mindset decisions. Way too much time doing that. And the other one, and to be fair, he's a boxing promoter who uses a lot. And it is spot on. Because real recognises real. And I think in boxing, this more than ever is apparent. Because no matter what anyone says in boxing, and people won't like to hear this, everyone says, you meet the best people in boxing. You don't. You meet really good, honest people, and you meet some of the worst characters you've ever met. Some of the most unscrupulous, horrible people in boxing. They're in it for money, or they're in it for ego.
Yeah.
Either way, ego and money bring the worst out in people. So that analogy of real recognises real. You recognise the real people in boxing, and they are salt of the earth good people. They're people that you know for the rest of your life, you will look up to, you will respect, and they'll always be there for you if you need help. Quickly, the others, you'll distance yourself from, and you get to recognise them. You have to look at them and think, you know what? There's nothing about you I like. There's nothing about you I trust. And the more time that I see you, I realise where you belong in the sport. You're here for your ego, or you're here for money. But real recognises real, and again, you take it into personal life, you take it into business. Real people will always be there in your life. And over time, you'll resonate towards them. But the only reason you're drawn to them is if you're a real person as well. If you're carrying insecurities, falsities, if you're trying to be something you're not, real people very, very rarely gravitate towards you. A real person gravitates towards a real person. And you'll often see that in the people you coach. It's very rare. I'd never coach someone that I didn't like.
Yeah, I could tell. Apart from Andy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in fairness, I get money off the government for him, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit different. Like,
I'm there as well, so balances.
you're there to just dilute it a little bit. Like, apart from when you don't turn up sometimes, just meeting him, and then I'm like, racist, like, he'll be, you know what I mean? But I won't ever train people that I don't. And I'm blessed in the fact that I don't actually have to make that choice. I actually it falls that way where, I think people are drawn to me, and I'd like to think they are, because they know that I'm quite genuine and quite real. And my approach to boxing, I'd like to think, replicates that, in that I'm not one to, I'm not going to hold the pads and teach them a 35 punch combination and tell them, mate, you are the second coming of Floyd Mayweather here. I've never seen, I ain't going to do that. I'm liable to stand there with them and go, you're getting better slightly.
Yeah.
But next week we'll work on the jab a bit more. After lesson 7 of throwing the jab, and they're like, mate, when do I get to throw these combos? You don't, mate. Those combos don't happen. Like, when do I get to throw a body shot? Well, when you can throw a jab and a cross and a hook, we'll edge towards that. But it's real. But I think people know that if you're being real, they'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to have their ego caressed a little bit, but when someone's being real with them, they're more likely to stay with you. Because they think themselves, you know what, he ain't blowing smoke up my arse. He's telling me what I need to hear for me to improve as a boxer. And that's real. And that's where the analogy real recognises real. People will look and think, yeah, it's true to character. So I prefer to work with that than I would, work with someone just spouting bullshit to people.
Yeah. No,
so
you could see that, to be fair, because I know I like your class 2 spots, and it's just, there is that feel to it. And like, they've got their own styles, but they're like, they're doing stuff properly, and you can get wrapped up in it, but they are always,
I think just
good intentions, trying to go out there and do the right stuff.
Well, because a lot of people are trying not to take part in sparring and take part in the shows we do. And I've got a vested interest in them.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, I want them to do well. I want to do well for themselves, but also as well, I want to showcase the fact that I believe I can make someone a better boxer.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to make someone, the next coming of Joe Kawasaki. I'm never portrayed to say that. My place within the sport, I like to think, is taking people, from stage 1 to stage 2. There's 200, 300 stages in boxing.
Yeah.
Stage 1 to 2 is taking somebody that wants to improve, has done a little bit of boxing or even no boxing, and hone the fundamentals where at any time in their life they can go anywhere. Shadow box, even if somebody held the pad to them, they could throw shots in a correct manner.
Yeah.
So I take a real vested interest in looking at somebody and say, look, wherever you go, if someone held the pads up for you, you'd correctly throw your shots.
Yeah.
And that for me, it may sound weird, but I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That's as much as I need, but I still take a pride in that I can pluck any person out that I train and say, demonstrate this, and I want to demonstrate it correctly.
Yeah.
If they do that, to me, I'm like, right, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Those other people need world champions, they need people to have fucking belts, whatever it is, I don't do whatever. And again, they don't like to hear this, but a lot of coaches do live vicariously through, the people that they train. You'll often hear that because they'll say, oh yeah, I've got X amount of champions in here, and you think, it's not really you, is it, mate? Like, you facilitate that, but don't live vicariously through them. To me, yes, have a sense of pride. Yes, know that you've helped them get to that point, but it ain't about your ego, it's about them, but you can still take a sense of pride.
Yeah.
In them, whatever level it is. And my level certainly isn't, looking at taking people and win the British title. It's somebody coming here, lacking confidence, wanting to try boxing but thinking, I can never do this. Starting off doing pads, then saying, look, we're going to do a little bit of light sparring. And you can see them thinking, I'm not sure about this. But trusting the fact that we've taught them the correct technique, which will get them through that. And when they get in there, again, exactly like you said earlier on, recognising, well, actually, I'm in here now. I'm enjoying this. So I'm not in here thinking, God, I'm going to get punched here. I'm in here thinking, if I jab in and he jabs me back and I parry it, if I hit him with a 1-2, I'll land that shot. And all of a sudden they're in there thinking their way through a sport.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, I don't want to get involved in this sport and get my head punched in, which is, again, there's so much involved in this sport at a level where, people, again, it goes back to the age-old thing, the ego and the bravado. They want to come down and, and they want to, sort of think to themselves, well, I'm tougher than everyone else. Well, there's always going to be someone tougher in the gym.
Yeah.
There's always someone bigger, there's always stronger, there's always someone more skilled, there's always someone tougher. That's the route you're going with it. You're going to come unstuck everywhere you go, every time you go. Whereas you're taking somebody from the basics, teach them those fundamentals and let them get in here and seeing their confidence grow, doing the fundamentals well and enjoying a light technical spar. For me, as a coach, that's success to me.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. After that, wherever they do, wherever they go, good luck to them, great, but that's kind of my job done at that point.
Have you got Strictly Business is coming up in September? Have you got any photos going on that?
Yeah, I've got a few on it. I'm pleased that I've got 3 or 4 boxing on that. And again, very blessed in the fact that the guys that are boxing on it are all, they're all technically sound. They're all, but there's areas for them to improve, and the kind of areas where they can improve will benefit them in a fight. It'll benefit them in sparring, but essentially in a fight. So for all of them, it's going to be good seeing them box. So the pressure will bring the best out of them. Sometimes when they spar, they sort of go through the gears a little bit, and they don't tend to really sort of push themselves and push their own ability. They've got more they can do. But in sparring, they get a bit complacent, which is fair enough, and you understand. They revert to doing the same things, revert to time. What works for me, I'll just stick to doing that. Whereas now they've got a fight coming up, it's saying, look, that one technique isn't going to work for you. You've got to look at different techniques. You're going to have to adapt in there. What are you going to do if this person does that? So seeing them all now having to think more. And when they spar, they're having to utilise, different shot selections, tempo changes, having to think, right, okay, I'll put you with different people, try and figure them out. Well, you haven't got 10 weeks of sparring with them. I'm going to put you in there for 2 minutes now. You've got to win that 2-minute round. And seeing them develop and think more, is really good. And I think it'll massively improve them as boxers. Their bouts are really good. I've got to be honest with you, they're all 50-50, really well matched. And for them, what I love is when they go in there, and I've had this with fighters on our shows and Strictly Business where they've lost, and I've had to say to them, you boxed brilliantly. The person beat you by just doing something slightly better, adapted slightly better in that situation, but they still put on a great performance. It was never a case they got in and the person was far better than them. In every case they got in and they got, out-muscled. It was always, technically, you lost out because it's that close where it could have gone either way, but technically you lost out for this reason. And that's what I love about the shows. People getting in there, they're not getting beaten up, they're not getting lumps knocked out of them, they're getting in there, they're showcasing their skill set. But when they're in there, they're having to think. And that's the difference. Not surviving, not in there thinking, oh, God, I've got to get through this. They're in there thinking, oh, I've got to adapt here. How can I adapt? And with all the fighters that are on the show, I'm loving seeing them now having to think, right, when I go in here now, I've got to make sure I'm switched on. I've got to make sure that my skill set is developed enough where, I'm going to have to throw different shots, think my way through it. Rather than saying to them, right, punch the bag for 10 rounds, let's get you super fit, put you on a assault bike, I'll scream at you, and say you've done brilliant. And then, when you go to fight night, you see them thinking, well, I don't know what to do here. Because you haven't given them a skill set to when they're in there to adapt in that moment. So, but they're all intelligent boxers, they're all lads that, fundamentals are really good. But for them to win their fights, they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to figure stuff out. They're going to have to develop their own skill set to have a different range of shots in there. And that's great for them because the boxing IQ is improving and they're getting challenged in the right way. Rather than getting in there and just thinking, cross, I've got to survive here.
You can always tell when there's a show coming up because the sparring, you can see it change. Like everyone's giving it that little bit more, wanting to put the pressure on themselves and each other. Like it's a good feeling.
And it's great as well because you see we've had quite a lot of new people come through to sparring. I mean, you see we have 3 rings running. The classes are up from 14 to sort of 20 people here. But you see new people that are coming along that are seeing the sparring run in a controlled way where nobody's getting hit with heavy shots. It's very technical, it's very light. But you can see people that are new to sparring that are enjoying themselves. They're getting in there, they're feeling comfortable, it's controlled. But they can see that happening and thinking like, where the lads that are building up to a show, like a little bit more free rein. They're doing a few more rounds, a little more intensity in their rounds. They're looking at that thinking, oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, hang on, you'll get the opportunity. But again, let's get the fundamentals right. Let's get you, in a position where, you're comfortable sparring. Your fundamentals and your basics are on point, and you'll get that. But it's seeing them thinking, oh, quite a lot, look at that.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And you see that next sort of crop of people, you think, like, you'll get your opportunity in time.
Yeah.
And seeing that blend across sparring is great. That's how it should be.
Yeah, 100%. And is there anyone in particular you're thinking that you're coaching for 6 years, like, I'd like to see them, or just any names to watch out for?
I tell you something, I think, I don't want to say surprised. I think people are fully aware of his skill set. But I think somebody who I want to really see, I've seen him progress hugely over the last 6 months. confidence has risen. The ability's always been there, but the confidence has grown, and you've seen it in sparring. But Prav, who spars, again, he's lighter. He's in that 50 kg bracket, so he's very light essentially. So his sparring partners tend to always be 4 or 5 kg heavier, just through availability. But I've seen him develop now, and I've seen his technique develop, seen his confidence grow. And sometimes when he puts his shot selections together, as a southpaw, he's superb, but his confidence has grown. And each week, each sparring session, each time I work with him, he gets incrementally better. And I'm hoping we keep that momentum going through to the show, which I'm sure we will. And to see him really showcase what he can do will be fantastic, because he's one who, on the pads, is fantastic. But because the fact he's been smaller, and he's been forced to, just through, pure logistics, box against, excuse me, people that are a bit bigger, it's limited how many shots he'll throw, purely because he's boxing against somebody that's bigger. Now, occasionally, I'll put him in with people through our amateur squad, again, who are very skilled, who are similar weight to him. He's flourished. And that's seeing him, because that's the confidence.
Yeah.
Skill set's there, but when he's in with somebody the similar size, boom. And a lot of people don't see that, because they just see him in here sparring with someone who's a bit bigger, where he has to rein it in a little bit because of the size. When he spars a couple of times with some of the amateur lads, who are skilled, from quite a few of our bouts, ultra fit, and I watch him do 3 2-minute rounds with them, the best comes out in him. So he's one I'm fighting. I really want to see him. And I think people will be surprised, because they see his ability, they see, technically he's very good, but they often see him being very conservative. Well, you would do if you were constantly fighting against him. But now, when he's got something his own size, you'll see him flourish, you'll see those shots come together and that nice fluid style he's got. So he's one Prav I'd say, keep an eye out for. Because I think you watch him and for somebody in his first bout, I think people would be shocked technically how good he is for a first bouter.
Yeah, I look forward to that one. Definitely.